Okay. Welcome, folks. Shavua Tov. Good Tavach. Or if you're of a Polish if you come from that tradition, then a Gitavach. Today's learning is for the Refuah Shlema, speedy recovery, complete recovery of the name just escaped me, but I have it. Of Shenda Bastova. Yes. Speedy recovery. And for all those that need a Refuah Shlema, welcome. I don't know what's happening over here that can't get it up there.
I was like 2 minutes late. So it's fine. It suits me. It's perfect.
All right.
So this I've spent the day trying to get it for work and do everything. I'm good.
Yes. So this week's Torah portion speaks about the Mishkan, the home of God, tabernacle, the meeting place of God. And it's put up the initiation of the Mishkan and its offerings. So 7 days prior, it's called the initiation period. Shivas Yimei HaMiluim, as it's called in Hebrew. But it's not the official inauguration. It's initiation, sort of, the educational time period, if you will. On the 8th day, after the training period is finished for the Kohanim, the Mishkan, so that's when the Kohanim took over, the priest took over the divine service. The service is got in the initial initiation stage. Yeah.
On my phone, will I see it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Oops. Yeah, from another time. You can go to 770, 60, 85, and you will get it. Sorry, folks. Oh. There we go. Okay. So during the 7th day of initiation, Moses, erected the tabernacle, performed the services in it, and dismantled it each day. So there are two unusual things that occurred in those 7 days. One is that Moshe performed the services, and the other that Moshe erected and dismantled the Mishkan every day, which was not something that would henceforth happen. Moshe is is a Levite. He is not a Kohen. The Kohanim, the priests, are from his brother Aaron and his descendants. You found it there? Okay. And so Moshe would not do the work. And also they would only dismantle the Mishkan, the tabernacle, when they would travel from place to place. If they were steady in one place, it was built, it was erected, put together, and it stayed there until the next time that they would travel. Okay? Another unusual thing that occurred was on the 8th day itself. On the 8th day, which is inauguration day, right? Initiation days is the 7 days before. On the inauguration day, that morning, Moshe once again erected the Mishkan. He put up the walls, fastened the beams, he attached all the coverings, and they hung the curtains. And once the Mishkan was in place, he then placed the altar. And before he put up the screen, which was the outer perimeter, the boundary, he did something different. So we see in this text over here. What did he do? He placed.
Rabbi,
Yes.
on the Zoom, it's just showing a picture of a car.
Right. All I see is a car.
Good model car. We'll get
Some old car with zeros on it saying Lenovo.
How are we doing now?
That's better.
Perfect.
Now you got to increase the prompt.
Okay. Thank you. Can you speak up next time a bit earlier? Okay. So he placed the altar of the burnt offering in front of the entrance of the tabernacle. I remember this is the you got it there? You're in Zoom?
No, I don't have the Zoom link anywhere.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just send it to you.
So I was coming to class and I kind of keep my screen as clean.
I understand. No problem. You want it sent to you as an email or to
You can send it on our.
okay. Oh, it's there in our
It
in
was there.
oh, I got you.
I clean up. I think I'm coming here, so I don't.
Right, gotcha. There you go. I sent it to you. Okay. So he placed the altar, the burnt offering in front of the entrance of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, and he offered up the burnt offering and the meal offerings as God had commanded him. He set up the courtyard around the courtyard around the tabernacle of the altar and put up the screen at the entrance of the courtyard. And with this, Moshe completed his work. Okay. Now, what he did was he set up the altar first. He made the offerings, right? There were no screens around the yard. And afterwards, after the service, he put up the screens, which seems counterintuitive, right? Because when you're building a home, you build a home and then you put in the artifacts. Even though this is only a yard, but even a yard, right, where is an integral part of the Mishkan. This is the courtyard, not the Mishkan itself, right? The altar is permanently positioned there, and it seems to make more sense. First, make the parameters, and then you'll put the altar, and then you'll do the service. But he didn't do that. Was he in a hurry? No. Why did Moshe do this? It was never to be done again, right? It's not the way the Levites would do it. The Levites would actually, the Levites were the first to travel. You know why? Because wherever they were going to go, they had to set up the camp. So they would first go, Gershon and Merari, who took the heavier things. Kahos went behind them, carrying the artifacts. So Gershon and Merari comes there first. They set up camp wherever they are meant to, wherever the cloud rests. They set up the encampment with all of the boundaries that are necessary, right? For some reason, I can't get it up here. Okay, our IT guy is very fashionable. So you see what's up here? Not here. Give me a second. But yeah, go ahead. I sent you the link.
I know.
What?
Unplug and replug this back.
Oh, no, look, if that's the case, then just go on your phone. If you're going on a phone, I don't want to,
All right.
if that's what we have to redo the whole thing, because it's working because this is here.
Right. No worries. We'll go on our phone.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to take too much time now. Okay, sorry. Okay. So again, Gershon and Merari come, they set up all the perimeters, and then and the Mishkan itself, right? The planks and everything, the coverings, and then the artifacts are all brought in by Kohath that come afterwards. So Moshe is doing the opposite. He did not create the encampment. He put the altar and brought offerings, and only then he. Do you want to help? Yeah. Okay. Why didn't you just click on my link?
I did, but I had to upgrade my Zoom.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. We got you working today, huh? So the question is, of course, why did Moshe do the reverse? Why did he do what he did? And the question becomes even more complicated, because in today's Chumash Rashi that we learned earlier this morning, we see that Moshe first told Bezalel is the chief architect, that when he makes the Mishkan, he should do the artifacts first and then the Mishkan. And Bezalel objected. And Bezalel said to him, here we have it, Bezalel objected. Common custom is to build a home first and then to fill it with furnishings. Moshe replied, you are in the shadow of God, surely that is what God said to me. Indeed, this is how he built it. The tabernacle first and then the furnishings. So now there's the tabernacle. It doesn't mean just that, but all of the perimeters also, all of that was done first, and then the artifacts were brought in. Again, what does Moshe do? What does Moshe do? Everything else he does, but when it comes to the altar, he does not create the perimeter, the enclosure. He first puts up the altar, brings offerings, and then puts up the perimeter. Why? And this is even more a grave issue, because in halacha, that is what you need to do. Jewish law tells us that this is the way that the Mishkan needs to be done. First, you put up the Mishkan, you put up the parameters, and then you put in the artifacts. And why does Moshe do different? This is according to Rashi. There's other commentators have a different on the understanding, but according to Rashi, it seems that he takes the view that Moshe is contravening this law. I mean, seemingly, obviously, we need to understand this, right? And even what he agrees with Bezalel's point of view, that he says, even you were in the shadow of God. Got it? No. Oh, okay.
10 seconds left.
For the Zoom, okay.
How come I read this in our last? How did I get that? I think I did the wrong one. I think I did the wrong one.
Okay. Now you're with us. Okay. So Rashi seems to follow this opinion. The Ramban, Nachmanides actually learns differently. So we need to understand what's going on over here. Okay. Okay. Are the questions clear?
So Moshe does what?
Moshe is putting up the altar first, put offerings. He doesn't cover it with the outer perimeter of the tent, of the screen rather. He doesn't do that. which is halachically you need to do. What Bezalel told him that this is what is the way we need to do it, which he agrees to. But on the 8th day and the day of inauguration in the morning, he doesn't do it that way. We need to understand what's going on. Okay? Okay. So we have two questions. It doesn't make much sense in the, that Moshe is offering the sacrifices before the screen is put up. And Jewish law doesn't permit it to make sacrifices outside of the Mishkan. And in a sense, without putting up the screen, that is like doing something outside of the Mishkan. You're not allowed to bring sacrifices outside the Mishkan. Right? So this event occurred on the first day of Nisan. That's the inaugural day of the Mishkan. Okay? As we see in the following text, and God spoke to Moshe saying, you erected the tabernacle, the Mishkan, the tent of meeting, on the first day of the first month. Right? This is the second year now, right? They went out of Egypt in the first month. This is Nisan. This is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, right? Almost a year after going out of Egypt, right? Now, as I mentioned, or we mentioned earlier, Moshe had done this already for 7 days prior, right? He erected it, dismantled it every single day for 7 days. Those were the days of initiation, education, if you will, training, the training that was going on then. On the 8th day, right, it's called inauguration. Right? As the verse says, and it came to pass on the 8th day, and Moshe summoned Aaron and his sons and the Jewish elders. Rashi explains that it came to pass on the 8th day of initiation. This was the first day of the first month of Nisan, the day of the tabernacle was erected. So Moshe inferred that the Mishkan would need initiation for 7 days before the inauguration. Right? Where do we see this? Earlier, in text number 8. This is what you must do to sanctify the priest to serve me. Bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance of the tent of meeting, bathe them in the water, meaning mikvah, and sacred vestments that belong to Aaron should belong to his children after him, to be exalted by them, and to invest them with authority. The priest, the Kohen, that succeeds him from among his sons, meaning the high priest, right, who will enter the tent of meeting to service in the holy, must wear them for 7 days. Do for Aaron and his sons all that I have commanded you. Initiate them for 7 days. Okay, so what do we have over here? We have initiation. Sorry. Oh, verse continues. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's where it is. Yeah, continuation. Okay, for 7 days. So the Kohanim, the priests, have to be initiated for 7 days. This is told to Moshe that the Mishkan would need to be standing for those 7 days. On the other hand, we learned that the Mishkan was to be erected for the first time on the first day of Nisan, 8 days later. So from this, Moshe inferred that the Mishkan, right, should be put up and put down each one of those days in the morning. Erect it in the morning, dismantle it in the evening, that it shouldn't be permanent. In other words, after this, it would be permanent wherever they are. I mean, permanent in their place, not day in, day out, right? And that would only happen on the first day of Nisan. That would be left up permanently. Okay? In other words, the Mishkan was not erected during the 7 days for the purpose. Okay, the point is like this. There's two things that are happening over here. One is initiation of the Kohanim, and one, the inauguration of the Mishkan. Now, to initiate the Kohanim, what do you need? A Mishkan. You need a Mishkan, right? But the Mishkan is only like a means for the initiation of the Kohanim of the first 7 days, right? So therefore, it's got to be put up, put down each day as part of the initiation. In other words, it's not being inaugurated. It's not being initiated either. Initiation training is for the people, for the Kohanim. They need training, right? The planks of wood don't need training, right? The screens don't need training. The goat skins that are covering the Mishkan don't need training. They need inauguration. That's on one day, the 8th day. Okay? The 8th day, yes.
Question, Rabbi. Wouldn't the panels and the woven cloth, the screen and everything lose their holiness every
If
time they put it up and again down?
Why?
And again.
Why? It wasn't imbued yet with the holiness, with its complete holiness until the 8th day. That's when it's inaugurated. Only when it's inaugurated, it has its complete holiness. Right now, it's serving a purpose. What's that? Initiating, training the Kohanim. Okay? And that's why it's put up, put down, because it's not imbued yet with holiness. Potential holiness, but not yet holiness. The inauguration is what brings that holiness. Is that clear? Yeah? So the 8th day, though, comes out a funny day. Why? It's inauguration. But it's also part of initiation.
Finish that.
It's part of the initiation because on the what because how is the first day, how's the inauguration called? 8th day. Well, 8th day is a continuation of 7 days. So that's why Moshe, the first thing in the morning, what does he do? He's doing the work because he's still initiating, right? In the inauguration, he's not doing it. Who's doing it? His brother, Aaron, and his sons, the Kohanim, are doing it, right? That's what brings the holiness. And there, right? Not the training part, but the holiness is imbued in that. But even on the 8th, because that's what the verse said, on the 8th day, right? Well, why call it the 8th day? It means the continuation of the previous days. It means there's an initiation aspect on that day too. The morning was initiation. And then who does it? Moshe does it, because that's his job. He's the teacher, right? He's not the kohen who does the work, so he doesn't inaugurate, but he initiates because he is the teacher. So he's got to do it even on the 8th day.
So even on the 8th day, Rabbi, they don't take it down. It stays as is. Or
Yes.
After the.
Yeah, after the 8th day, yes.
no, on the 8th day, from the beginning of the 8th day when Moshe Rabbeinu is putting it up, putting the Mishnah up as part of the initiation, would it be put down again and further inaugurated or inaugurated as is?
As is.
Okay.
Yeah, good. No, good question. So the 8th day is still part of the initiation. That's what the verse. Moshe also led the service and brought the communal offerings on the 8th day. The initiation phase of the day of the tabernacle was erected. Okay. Now, since this is part of initiation, right? This day, the first part of the day, right? There was a transference after that inauguration. Again, Aaron and his sons take over. But in that part, it's not imbued with the holiness. Therefore, it's not imbued with the regular laws of a Mishkan. What's the regular laws of a Mishkan? That you have restrictions that apply. What are the restrictions? That you have to build the home first. You have to build the boundaries first, and then the implements, and then the service, right? But on the day of initiation, that was not the law yet. It didn't apply. Because it wasn't imbued with that holiness yet. Is that clear? In the Rebbe's words, in this Sikha, in text number 10, the 8th day of initiation is part of the preparatory educational phase of the tabernacle, the Mishkan service, and the commandment to make me a sanctuary. It is not problematic for the service to begin immediately upon the altar's erection before the screening of the yard, because the rules for an educational service are different. So that answers our question why Moshe brought his offerings, right? They don't contravene the law of first building the home, the sanctuary, and so on, right? Because it was that part of the day was initiation, educational. So it wasn't necessary. It didn't contravene anything, right? Being that's an educational day, it wasn't so strict and therefore was permitted to bring the offerings, even the screens weren't up. But do you have a question?
I don't know, why did he feel I had to go on to the 8th day?
Oh no, God said that. That's already,
Why-
that's already. No, God told him to do this, right?
Even at the beginning of the 8th.
Yeah. I think what the question should be, okay, we understand it doesn't contravene any law, but why not do it the way it's supposed to be done, that it's normally done? Like, why do it this way? Why first bring the offering? Why do that?
Because he said he was gonna follow the rules, but then he didn't.
No, but that we explained he doesn't have to. But why not? Like, in other words, why is he doing it this way? Putting up the altar before it's screened, the screens are put up, the barriers are put up, right? He's putting up the altar.
Which is not supposed to be like that.
No, it's in a, no. We just explained that it's okay to be that way. But he doesn't have to be that way, but he did it that way. So obviously he did it intentionally. Why? What are you gaining? Why not just do it the way it would be, forevermore? Now, you might say maybe he wants to make a distinction since initiation. Okay.
Because what goes on interior takes precedence over the exterior. The actual whole service takes precedence to the walls around it. Like service. The actual.
Yeah.
service.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, but then if that's the case, then that should be all the time then. But it's not. But it's not. No, you're saying is a good svara, a good rationale. But yeah, but that doesn't explain. Then that should be all the time, based on what you're saying. If that were the case, right?
Right.
But there's something unique here, obviously. There's something unique here that we need to. Okay. Okay. So, in other words, Moshe has a compelling reason over here. What's compelling? It has to be something compelling. He's not just doing it out of convenience.
He does it repetitive.
Well, I mean, it's on this day he did it that one time. It was that one time. Sorry? To make it as fast as possible?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I hear. Okay. Let's we're going to go off on a tangent a bit in order to appreciate this. And we're going to tell a story with the Alter Rebbe. The story itself is just a fascinating story in and of itself. And you could have a whole class about this. But some background first before the story. The Alter Rebbe was facing, and even after his times even more strongly, was called the Haskalah movement, which is an enlightenment movement, so-called enlightened. It began in Germany and spread out through cities in Poland, Lithuania, Hungary, and it was on its way to Ukraine and Russia. which is, of course, a stronghold of Chabad Chassidim. And they were intent on bringing people away from traditional Judaism, from committed Torah observance. Oh, okay, thank you. And what they would do is infiltrate religious communities as teachers and try to inspire, or, if you will, the young kids, and try to veer them off the path of Yiddishkeit. That's the Enlightenment movement, right? So in this, and often they would come to be teachers, right? They would dress Hasidic looking, religious looking, right? They would, and our story is of an individual who was scholarly, was scholarly, and again, with the intent of trying to derail them. So this is, we're talking about 200 years ago. So before diving into the story itself, just to give us some background to the story, if you remember the story of when Yitzchak, Isaac wanted to give the blessings to Esav, the older son, right? No, it's Yaakov. So that's Yaakov did that. This is Yaakov now getting the blessings from his father. So Yaakov went in, dressed up like his brother, and he got the blessings. And then Esav came in after him, right? And all of a sudden, he got frightened, Yitzchak. The word says, charada, frightened. Rashi says he got frightened because, well, we'll see. He got frightened. That's the first explanation he gives, that he shuddered. Second explanation he gives, that it means that he saw Gehenna, Purgatory, open up before him. Okay? Let's take a look. Isaac shuddered, a great shudder, and he said, "Who then is that the one that hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate of everything before you arrived. I blessed him. He too shall be blessed." Right? That he shuddered. So Rashi explains the word shuddered. What does it mean? This is the verse, right? What does it mean? So Rashi says that Isaac shuddered, Yitzchak shuddered, as rendered by Targum. He was perplexed. Perplexed. Okay? Midrash explain. Now he gives a second explanation. Midrashic explanation. He saw Purgatory open beneath him. Okay? Is that clear? Now we understand why he was perplexed, because he was confused, because he thought he was giving the blessing to Esav, and when it was Yaakov, who was dressed with skin on his arms to feel like, right? He was blinded, so he didn't see, to appear like Esav. So the simple meaning is that he was perplexed. Rashi brings a midrashic, not a simple meaning, right? Homiletic meaning, that he saw Purgatory open before him. Is that clear? Okay. Okay, now we're going to go to the story with the Alter Rebbe, with a Jew by the name of Shimon of Zamut. Who's Shimon? He's from the Haskalah movement, the so-called Enlightened movement, okay? This is a story that's told by the previous Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, right? And he tells it as it's told in Toldos Admor Azakin. Okay. On Wednesday, now this is told in the first person by Shimon of Zamut. Okay. On Wednesday, my turn was to be received by the Rebbe for a private audience. Remember, he came to Liadi. where the Alter Rebbe is, right? Author of the Tanya, the Shulchan Aruch, founder of Chabad, the great Alter Rebbe. And he got a position to be a teacher. He got in, as like they did often in many places. So he had a private aunt in the chamber, what the Chassidim call Supernal Gan Eden. Gan Eden the Elyon, as it's called, in the Rebbe's room. Holy place. When I entered the Rebbe's chamber, I was struck with fear and awe by the appearance of his face. His powerful and penetrating glance and his mighty and deliberate voice inquired, "What can I do for you?" But I immediately recovered and calmed myself. I said, "I'm an elementary school teacher in my hometown, and I teach my pupils according to the rules of Hebrew grammar." The Rebbe leaned on his forearms. Then he raised his head, opened his eyes, and asked me how I explained the passage. And Isaac was seized with great trembling to my students, right? Which we just went through, right? How do you explain it? I explained it according to the first interpretation of Rashi. He was a scholar, remember? He knows what it says, right? Which means he was perplexed. So I replied, right? Shimon is saying, and why don't you explain it according to the second interpretation of Rashi, according to the Midrash, that he saw purgatory open up beneath him? He asked. The Alter Rebbe asked him. In response, I replied, one shouldn't fill the pupils' delicate minds with agada in general, and especially with subjects such as purgatory that might frighten them. We must especially abstain from teaching young children things that they can't even imagine. A pupil will wonder how the large and wide opening of purgatory could fit in Isaac's small room, and how could its fires, which have been blazing uninterrupted for 5,555 years, enter his room. And yet Esav and his father survived and were not burned to a crisp. Right? This is what he's saying to the Alter Rebbe, right? And how does the Medrash know what it saw, that he saw purgatory upon beneath him? He asked further. The Alter Rebbe asked him. Others, okay. In other words, you're giving good rationale, right? He's giving a good rational understanding, right? That this might be too much for the young mind, delicate minds to appreciate. So now he's asking, well, the Midrash just say it, right? So where does it get from? How does it know that, right? I remained silent, Shimon says, making no reply. Obviously, I had no answer. Indeed, this would not be the first gross exaggeration found in Midrash and Talmud. When he saw that I remained silent, the Rebbe said, when Esav entered Isaac's room, Isaac asked him, "Who are you?" To this, Esav replied, "I am Esav, your firstborn son." But this was a lie, for he had already sold the birthright to Jacob in a legal sale with all the required formalities, right? Remember with the lentil soup, right? He came, he was hungry. So he gave him the soup and he said, okay, I'll give it to you, but sell your firstborn rights. He sold it to him. So he wasn't his firstborn anymore, according to Torah law, right? Isaac knew this. He knew that this was a lie, right? And he was very frightened by the lie that attempted to annul a reality that was valid by Torah law. This caused him to tremble, for telling such a lie resulted in purgatory opening beneath him. So he ties in the two things, right? Right. The shattered and the lie created purgatory, right? When the Rebbe finished speaking, he leaned on his forearms as he had done before. Then he raised his head and opened his eyes. He would close his eyes when he would speak. It was customary that whenever he receives people, even during the daytime, there are two lit candles, a chumash and a zohar, on the table. He now lifted up one of the two candles, scrutinized me, and said, "You come here from Vilna, but you claim you come from Zamut. You convert little children to idolatry of Haskalah, but you claim to be a Melamed. Because of these lies, purgatory opens beneath you. How many souls have you already destroyed? Yet you continue to betray. Yes, it's true. You are a heretic, and anyone who goes down that road will never return." I quickly fled his chamber. Psh. Whoa, what a story. That story itself is...
Couldn't make that connection.
No,
Yeshiva couldn't make that connection.
well, he was a heretic. He
So
didn't
it's
want to
very-
make the connection.
Oh.
That was his whole point. His point was he doesn't, first of all, he does, purgatory doesn't mean anything to him, but he probably doesn't even believe in it. He's a heretic, right? Doesn't believe in that. And what does it mean? Purgatory opened up and how they not be burnt to like even if he whatever he believes, I don't know what he believes, right? Him, I don't know, right? But I mean, he was a scholar, right? But that's why he's a heretic. Today, you don't have scholars who are heretics because anyone who's not a believer, they're just ignorant. They don't know anything. He knew. He was very learned, right? A very dramatic, powerful story, right? He's pretending to be a pious man, and the Alter Rebbe called his game. He called his game. He knew who he was, right? And what is he? He's trying to take away souls from the Jewish people, from God, from Torah and mitzvahs. But let's take a moment and let's put away the story for a moment. But his point is, don't teach young children such ideas. It's too much for their minds, right? Well, is there not some validity to that? Isn't there not some truth to that? In other words, teach a child and according to their way and what they're capable, right? And we see that the Alter Rebbe, though, is vehemently against that. Vehemently against that. So let's understand what's going on over here. So what comes out, there's two objectives in education. Progressive education, which means according to a child's capability, their understanding, the level that they're at. So a 5-year-old, you're teaching, what's appropriate for a 5-year-old, the 10-year-old, what's appropriate for them, and so on and so forth. But then there's also what we call shock treatment, like what?
Like the purgatory.
Like the purgatory is shock treatment, right? That's shock treatment. Exactly. Exactly. Text number 13. The first principle of a practical pedagogy is to establish a regular order. Every form of pedagogy seeks to impart knowledge of pupils do not possess and develop certain character traits. How is this achieved? Primarily through repetition and habituation. Through daily and hourly measured repetition, by progressing in a balanced, deliberate, and progressive way in all times and places, and by using consistency and precision. That's the first idea, right? That we have to make sure that we're consistent. So every day the 5-year-old is learning the Aleph base, and he learned it earlier. Now he's learning a verse in Torah. So he's Torah Tziva Lana Moshe Merasha Kilas Yaakov Bereshit Bara Elokim Es Hashemayim Es Haaretz, and they go over Bereshit Bara. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. They translate each word, and and they're going over the sing song, and they're repeating and repeating day in day out, and they'll go learn the next day another Torah verse, and then they'll repeat the one from before. That's all in a regular repetitious manner to make sure that they're inculcated with the teachings, that they have the skills and also the lessons that come thereby with it, right? And everybody according to their level, right? And as the Rebbe explains in this week's Sikha, although it is important for every child to be taught according to their path, as King Solomon says, we mustn't be content with the limited pedagogy that is common around the world. Through this, too, is consistent with Torah approach. Rather, our education must also include sacred transcendental content, even if it is beyond the child's current understanding. We must even teach the concept of self-sacrifice on occasion. Ooh. In other words, we need to teach them things that doesn't make sense to them. They don't get it. They don't understand it. And it might even be something that sounds a bit scary, like purgatory, right? Like purgatory. The Rebbe continues to say, this pedagogy approach produces a desired result that even when they grow old, they will not turn away from the teaching. It inspires pupils to be firm, durable, permanent commitment to Judaism, even when they step out of the home and environments of holiness, and remain strong and firm in their Judaism. Meaning like this. ultimately, what's our goal? Is to teach a child that when they get older, they're going to follow the path. So one way is you habituate them into, that they learn how to daven, right? And they say the words out loud, and they, day in, day out, the habitual things. And they first start with the things that they're capable, and then they grow in their davening and they're learning. They're first repeating words. You following me, folks?
Yes.
Following, right?
Yes.
They're learning then the Mishnah, and they're knowing the Mishnah by heart, and from there then they're going to the Gemara with the reasoning and so on, and they're going level to level, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, what's necessary, because that's habituating one thing, but then there are things that they need to be thrown into them that is beyond them. Why? Because when you go out into the world will tell you that you have to live based on what you understand and what you feel. If it makes sense to you, go for it. If it doesn't make sense for you, then leave it. So we have to throw in our education to children transcendent ideas that doesn't make sense to them. And especially when they're young. Because when they're young, they're not trained to, they're not using their rational mind to understand it. There's an acceptance of it. So you're going to need to throw that in also to them, so then it becomes something that they are comfortable with, because it's part of the lingo, it's part of the world that they know. So you speak about purgatory, in other words, right?
Okay.
Why? Because when you grow older, you'll be comfortable with it. And when you go out into the world where that is not PC, that word, you're comfortable with it. It's already been part of your world. It's been part of your world.
Preparatory.
You've been prepared. You've been educated this way, right? So you've been educated that there are things that are beyond you that you have been able to accept when you were 5 years old, because you heard it when you're 5 years old. 5 years old, you don't have a discerning mind, right? To, oh, what does that mean? Well, if Torah is telling it, so it's the truth, right? If you only bring it to the child when he's 13 years old, whoa, right? Now the 13-year-old mind is going to try to, maybe won't accept that so simply. But if you give it to them earlier, right, then that fresh mind, it'll be something that they're more comfortable with. And when they are 13 years old, and now they're rationally trying to understand that concept, right? It becomes part of their fundament, as opposed to something only thrown to them when they have the mental capacity for it. Because the truth is, even those areas where we have the mental capacity are, right, and we understand, our commitment to it is, it's God's Torah. It's God's Torah. Okay, those things, you're making habitual, and they're learning God's Torah. But then there's parts of God's Torah, right, that sound like beyond. That has to be part of the education. You have to open up that, because when that child will become a grown-up and go into the world, if you only teach them later, there won't be a comfort for that. Huh? There'll be a greater challenge to it.
Still challenging.
No, there'll still be a challenge, but
Challenging.
there'll still be there can still be a challenge. There can still be a challenge, but there's a greater, you see,
Comfort.
there's a greater comfort level, not a comfort level, and in the end, when we make choices in life, we think we're doing it based on rationality. We're not. We're doing it based on comfort. What am I comfortable with? That's not rational. So if you're already comfortable with Gehenna, with purgatory, right, at 5 years old, because, well, the Torah speaks about it, so, whatever. I don't know it's beyond them, right? Not that when you become older, when he becomes older, you do get the idea. Obviously, it's not burning physical fires, and and so on and so forth, and you get the idea, right? And you understand the concept a little more, but it's still you understand, but we live our lives not based on understanding. We live our lives based on feelings, right? That's how we live our lives. So if you're comfortable with it already, then you can rationally live with it better, and it'll be something that you'll be able to accept as part of your life, part of your world, part of your beliefs, right? With this, now we can understand Moshe chose to do the initiation, which is the education of the Mishkan, right? And in particularly the altar, right? We're talking about before the walls were erected, before boundaries of holiness were erected and still exposed. What were we exposed to? The big world. Exactly. Open to the big world. This is to demonstrate our relationship to God. That not just when we're in a holy environment are we to have our beliefs and our life's commitment, but our life's commitment has to be beyond the boundaries of holiness. If it was only in the bounds of holiness, right? When you're young and you're yeshiva and you're learning and you're given that which you can appreciate of holiness, then what will happen when the doors are open, the screens are down, the world is open? How will you remain committed? It'll be very difficult. It'll be very difficult. And this is, what the Haskalah was, right? What was the Haskalah? You were a Jew in the home and a man of the world in the street, right? You're a non-Jew in the street. Look like a non-Jew, be like a non-Jew in the street, and a Jew at home, because they felt a Jewish connection, right? This Shimon was a scholar, so he felt, Judaism has value as a culture, right? But not transcendent beyond. It's a beautiful teaching, it's a beautiful culture. There's a lot of values that are wonderful to take from there, and there's stories to take that are part of our culture and part of the lessons in life, but that it's transcendent, that it's beyond, no. We have to contain it only in the home environment, right? That's where we're going to be, right? Those things, our Jewishness. But, we want to be a person of the world, and therefore we got to open up the gates, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu also wants to open up the gates, because in the end, we are going to be part of the world. You can't be in the yeshiva forever, so you're going to be part and parcel of the world. So how are you going to maintain your commitment and connection to Yiddishkeit being there, right? So how are you going to do it? Is because Moshe himself brings the offering on the altar, right? The sacrifice. So we got to sacrifice. And part of that sacrifice means going beyond intelligence, right? Intelligence would never lead me to sacrifice anything, right? Intelligence would. Might say give up your life because you lived your life for something, so you're going to die for it. But that's intelligence telling you that. That's not real sacrifice. Sacrifice is when you feel you're really giving up something, but you do it anyways. Why? Beyond intelligence. So this is what the sacrifice on the altar is, right? That we're ready to sacrifice. In other words, there's something beyond us that we're ready to commit to, even in the outside world. So what does that mean? That we walk in the street like a Jew. That, in a sense, it's a sacrifice. What does it mean? Sacrifice means it's beyond rationale. Rationale will tell you that after October 7th, be careful. Don't go out in the street looking like a Jew, because that may bring problems towards you. That's what the rational mind will tell you. That's what the Haskalah will tell you. The Enlightenment movement will tell you. Be a non-Jew on the street. Don't bring anti-Semitism upon you. Not because you don't want to be Jewish. You want to be Jewish. Well, keep it at home. Right? Here, what do we say? No, you got to go beyond rationality. That's what we teach the children in Purgatory when they're young, even, or other things that are not. Okay, you're not bombarding them with that, but likewise, that when we go out in the world, that we'll be able to be comfortable with that idea. Also, that we go out and we have the sacrifice, that we dress the way we dress, We believe in what we believe, and even though the outside world is not open to that. Now, it starts off with a sacrifice, meaning beyond rationale. But then we have to integrate it, absorb it, and make it part of our reality, part of my mind and heart, that it's inherently it's something beyond. But then I absorb it in my mind and my heart, and I also rationally understand that value and those principles, right, that are beyond rationale, that I can absorb it and it becomes a part of me. And that is the idea that Moshe, what did he do specifically with that? He brought an offering of meat on the altar. What is meat? Something you eat that's absorbed. It becomes a part of you. In other words, the sacrifice that's transcendent beyond you, absorb it, make it a part of your identity, make it a part of your rational understanding even, and make it a part of your feelings, that it becomes absorbed and part of you.
I just wonder if you can go over again how it's connected to the structure not being set up yet, and yet he was doing the
That's how I
service.
just explained. So he left it open. He left it open. He's bringing a sacrifice on the altar, right? Which is the idea of something sacrificed beyond, transcendent, right? And then it needs to be absorbed and become a part of you, right? Because you eat the sacrifice, or at least parts of it, whatever, and some of the offerings at least, right? And that's the idea, at least, the concept here. So you're right. In other words, sacrifice meaning something that's beyond logic, bring it into logic, bring it into your emotions, bring it into absorbing and becoming your identity, becoming you. In other words, it's not something just beyond you, it's something that becomes you. This is something that is necessary that we teach, we initiate the teachings that way to the children, right? That when the fences are open, right? The fences are open over here. There's no structure around. The fences are open, meaning the world is open, that when we go out in the world, we are not going to be affected. We're not going to be affected by the Haskalah. We're not going to be affected by the naysayers. We're not going to be affected by those who mock.
Clear as daylight, yeah.
Because of structure. Okay, yeah.
Wow.
And as the Rebbe says, we offer sacrifice, sometimes bodily pleasures and animal soul, even when we are not in a home that is illuminated permanently with and obviously with God's holiness, such as the houses of prayer and study. We also eat sacrificial meat. This represents the idea that firm commitment of Judaism becomes our food and nourishment. We remain committed even if we are in an environment that's spiritually arid and is not surrounded by the walls and the boundaries of holiness. Right?
There it is.
There it is. In the Rebbe's words. Amazing, beautiful. All right, folks. Amazing. Thank you for joining. Very powerful indeed. All right. So, okay. We'll see you shortly.